I'm going to talk about one of the most interesting topic, which is how to overcome the risky AI usage in your organization. As we all know, organizations today are rapidly adopting the AI tools like Copilot, ChatGPT, Gemini, Cloud, and other AI platforms, trying to get the value out of the investments. But here is the reality. Most companies have zero visibility into what data is being actually fed into this platform and what are the data that's been this platform is accessing to give the output. And also employees are unknowingly pasting the sensitive data, the code, the customer data, the financial reports, uh, all these internal documents into the AI prompts. Everything happens in a single day. And the biggest problem is the security team often do not know what's happening over here. The traditional DLP tools were not designed for that to detect these kind of attack, these kind of the data leakage. What's happening? For example, when you talk about the traditional DLP, they are event based, and the AI toolings, they're going in a mission fast approach. So you won't be able to definitely take any value of the traditional DLP tooling which you have right now. So that's the reason you need to have a little bit of extra controls and guardrails in order to prevent your sensitive data not being exposed to the AI. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to detect the exact scenario with the risky AI usage template, which is present in the Microsoft Purview inside risk management, and how SOC teams can definitely make use of it. So let's get started. So if you talk about like why this is a big problem, I wanted to just go a little bit back. For example, this is one example. Let's understand why this is a serious insider risk problem. This is one example, like a sensitive data has been uploaded in the Copilot. So this is definitely not a malicious attack, or most of the time, it's definitely classified as an unintentional risk. An employee might copy a sensitive code and ask an AI tool for debugging help, or even paste customer data into an AI prompt for analysis. So from the security perspective, this seems to be as a data leakage risks, compliance violation because your data is moving outside your trusted boundaries, and also, of course, an intellectual property exposure has happened right now. So, and since these actions happen in the browser, they're often invisible without the right signals. So this is where definitely the insider risk management becomes extremely powerful. So if you have not used the insider risk management, how to get started with it, I have also posted videos previously in my previous videos. Please take a look at them, and this insider risk management is definitely going to help, and you need to have the required prerequisites to get started with this. So for this one, I'm just going to get into the default policy that you need to have. By default, like the insider risk management has a template, the risky AI usage policy. So when you talk about the risky A usage policy, this template is available in the quick creation option when you go to the insider risk management policy, and this is designed specifically to prevent copying the sensitive data, pasting it into the browsers, uploading files into the AI or external tools. So it correlates the user activity signals and builds the timeline of the behavior, and this is exactly um, what that is going to help you in preventing the sensitive data being fed into the AI. So if you talk about how to create a policy, all you need to do is just come to the Microsoft Purview inside a risk management, and then you need to create a policy. So this is the policy. Like for example, I've already created. I'm just going to show how it is going to look like. So the first one, the policy template, the first and the foremost thing, like yeah, you need to have the devices onboarded. I'm not going to talk more about it. And also, more importantly, you need to have the Microsoft Insider Risk extension on the Edge browser, or Microsoft Purview extension on Chrome browser. So you need to have this extension. Only then it is going to detect the activities that's happened in the browser. And then the next thing is like you need to create a browsing indicator. So the browsing indicator is like I will show you. So these are the policy indicator. In the policy indicator, you have the risky browsing indicator. So this browsing indicators you have to select, like for example, browse to unallowed sites, browse to Gen AI websites. So you see the browse to generative AI websites. This is the important part that is triggering for this policy. So you need to have this browsing indicator selected, and then you make sure the browse to generative AI website is selected. The next part, like when you go, is like I will also show. Here, naming the policy, I'm not going to worry. And targeting. Okay. And also targeting the policy to specific users, you can do that. Excluding the users, you can do. So I always highly recommend to start with a few set of users, and decide whether to prioritize the content. You just select, I want to prioritize the content. And my advice, like you just go with three options: SharePoint sites, the sensitivity labels. The sensitivity label helps to identify, for example, the owner of a SharePoint site, classified the document according to the label. That's going to definitely help. And the sensitive info types, like based on the sensitive info say sits that you have in your tenant, it is going to identify the sits, and then you know uh, identify those sensitive information. So you can just start with these three options, and later you can do the file extension and trainable classifiers, because doing all these five at the same time is going to bring a lot of noise. Okay. So let's go to the next one. So when you talk about the SharePoint sites to prioritize, like, yeah, you can definitely choose the SharePoint sites. What are the SharePoint sites that you need to prioritize to look into the insider data that's been more critical. So in this case, like for example, the SharePoint sites which has been labeled as confidential and highly confidential, please list them over here, and that is going to protect in the risky usage quick policy. So the next one is like the sensitivity labels to prioritize. Yeah, you can choose the list of sets that you have enabled in your organization, like confidential, the Copilot restricted, highly confidential, that depending upon your requirement. So that is going to help a lot in definitely identifying the sensitive information in the documents in the organization. And the sensitive info types to prioritize, you can also do the sensitive info types. The GitHub personal access token, that's a good option. Probably, there is a chance that the developer can probably choose it and paste it over here. Like for example, let's take a real example. Developer copies a confidential source code. The confidential source code has the personal access token or an intra client secret. So, and paste it into an AI tool and asking for an optimization help. So these things can happen, right? So when you do this, the system will identify, okay, it will detect this, for example, the GitHub personal access token and the Microsoft Enter client secret, and then it generates an alert. And the moment when the alert is generated, the SOC team can definitely investigate, confirm the alert, and then take further actions. Okay, so going next into that, decide whether to score only activity with priority content. So you can do like get alerts for all activity, or get alerts only for the activity that includes priority content. So maybe you can start with pilot users and choose the first one, get alerts for all activity, and see how is the alert that you're getting, and later you can fine tune based on your requirement. So the triggering event, this is very important. So how is the triggering event? Is a combination of the activity that happens, and that is probably identified as a data exfiltration, or a sensitive data that's been exposed to your AI website. So here, like user browse to potentially risky website. For this, you need to have the browsing indicator selected, as I stated earlier, and risky or sensitive content in Microsoft Copilot experiences. You can select these parameters. Like for example, entering the risky prompt in Copilot, receiving sensitive response from the Copilot, receiving sensitive response from enterprise apps. So these are all valid, right? So these are the things that we need to protect. So you select all these things, and the next one, choose the thresholds for the triggering events. This is very important because the triggering events is the threshold is the most important part for the events, the triggering events to take action. So I recommend just go with the built-in thresholds, and later, if that is not required, then you can go with the custom thresholds. But the custom thresholds is always challenging. Keep that in mind. If you are very clear about what you are doing, please go with the custom thresholds. And the next one is the indicators, like as I stated, the risky browsing indicators is selected, the Gen AI apps is selected, and the data loss potential alert indicators should also be selected. So when any DLP policies generate, these alerts are selected. So here you need to select this, but in order to do this, you have to go to the indicators and select the DLP policies. I will show that to you. For example, you need to go here, and all the way down you just need to select the data loss policy, and then you have to select the DLP policies and add the DLP policies that would apply for this template. For example, I have selected GDPR enhanced and then save. So when you do this, then this policy is going to definitely take in effect for this particular template. So that's the reason some best practices when using this template is always use the sensitivity labels, because your sensitivity labels is used in your SharePoint sites, for example, and that's going to help the sensitive data that's stored in your SharePoint being fed into the Copilot, for example. And then the next one is like combine with the DLP policies, which we saw a few seconds back. Like for example, I have selected GDPR enhance. So you always combine this template with the right DLP policies that is going to enrich the data and help detecting the sensitive information being fed into the Copilot. And the third one is enable the endpoints data collection, which means like you need to have the Purview extension for the for the browser, so that it is going to help the insider risk management detection. And the next one is like always tune the policies to reduce the noise. But initially, when you create the policies, of course, it is going to bring a lot of alarms. So always start with the less number of users, and then just fine tune them based on your requirement. Please do not go with the option fire and forget. And the last one is always you can integrate with the like adaptive protection. So if you go to next, and then finally, these are the detection options: downgrade or remove label file, and then Copilot access. That's also a very good option. These things can happen, right? And then activities above users usual activity for that day. This is also very good. So when you go next, and then finally you're going to apply and then finish. That's all. So the moment when you submit, then it would take like 12 to 24 hours for this to activate, and then the policy is ready to be detecting the risky sensitive data that's been fed into, for example, the Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT or any other AI platforms. So let's quickly summarize what we learned now. The AI tools are introducing the new category of the insider risks that can happen because the users can accidentally accidentally fed the sensitive data into the prompt. One is fast, invisible, and often unintentional. That's the reason organizations today are missing the visibility into the AI data sharing, detection of, for example, the copy paste behavior and the context of the user action. All these things happens just in a browser based event. So that's the reason the risky use AI usage template in the inside risk management solves this by tracking the user activity in the browser, like generating to the copying like browsing to the Gen AI websites and correlating the signals, like what are the things that's happening on this Gen AI websites, and generating the actionable alerts. So definitely, if we enable this for the SOC teams, this is a major game changer, because now we can actually see and investigated this AI related risks. So if your organization is definitely adopting AI, it's highly recommended to take care of this by using the proper guardrails. And you can start, for example, with this risky AI usage template if you're already utilizing the insider risk management in the Microsoft Purview. If you found this useful, feel free to let me know your comments, and see you in the next video.